My child, listen closely, because the truth I am about to reveal will shake the corners of your spirit and open a door inside you that you didn't know existed. Something has been happening behind the scenes, something hidden, something whispered in the dark, and heaven has decided that you deserve to know it. There is a woman, someone who carries bitterness in her breath and jealousy in her bones, someone who could not stand the light surrounding your son. She watched him laugh, she watched him grow, she watched him rise even when life tried to push him down. And in that rise, she found the crack in her own soul. Instead of healing, she chose envy. Instead of learning, she chose resentment. Instead of seeking peace, she sought power. She wanted to see your son fall. She wanted to see him break. She wanted to see him lose everything that makes him shine. So she did something she should never have done. She took your son's photo, an innocent picture meant to capture his smile, his eyes, his purity, and carried it to a place where darkness pretends to be guidance. She went to a seer, a woman who speaks to energies, who reads shadows, who listens to spirits that do not speak to everyone. The moment she placed that photo on the table, the entire atmosphere shifted. The candles that burned gently began to flicker like trembling hearts. The air thickened as if holding its breath. The walls shivered as if something ancient had awakened. The seer, who had seen thousands of faces, thousands of auras, thousands of destinies, froze. Her eyes widened. Her fingers trembled. She didn't look at the woman. She looked beside her, as if something invisible had stepped into the room. "Who is this child?" she whispered, her voice shrinking into the silence. But she wasn't asking the woman. She was asking the presence standing behind her. A presence the jealous woman could not see. The woman smirked, thinking it was all theatrics. She pronounced your son's name, dripping with venom, expecting the seer to nod, to confirm her hatred, to bless her darkness. But the second your son's name left her tongue, the mirror behind them split right down its center. A crack so sharp, so sudden, it sliced the silence in half. The woman jumped. The seer backed away. They both knew mirrors don't lie, and mirrors don't break without reason. The seer grabbed her hand and whispered, "You should not have brought this photo here. This child is protected. He is not ordinary." The woman tried to laugh it off, but her laughter choked in her throat when every candle flame turned blue, the color of spiritual warning. She looked toward the mirror and saw what should never happen in a mirror. Her reflection was gone. Fear crawled up her spine. Something had followed her into that room, not to harm the child, but to defend him. The seer stood firm, even as her own spirit shook. "Leave now," she demanded. "Do not look back. What you brought here is cursed, but it is not the child, it is you." The woman stumbled out of the room, nearly tripping over her own feet. She felt eyes watching her. She felt footsteps behind her, though no one was walking. She felt breath on her neck, though the night was still. When she reached her home, the shadows felt heavier. Every corner of the room whispered warnings she tried to ignore. She burned candles. She spoke chants she didn't understand. She begged for the shaking inside her to stop. But the shaking wasn't fear, it was judgment. The spirit that rose that day wasn't evil, it was protection. It was the force assigned to guard your son's destiny. It didn't come to attack her, it came to warn her. The child she tried to touch was chosen long before she ever knew his name. That night, neither she nor the seer slept. The seer kept seeing visions of your son, a brightness surrounding him so intense it blurred the edges of her sight. She saw symbols older than time circling his name. She saw doors opening that had been sealed for generations. She saw angels, not one, not two, but many, standing in formation around him. The seer whispered to herself, "That boy carries destiny." and she knew instantly the woman's jealousy had awakened something she was never prepared for. This is just the beginning of what heaven wants you to understand. What was meant for harm has already begun turning into protection. What was meant to break your son has become the fire that strengthens him. What was meant to end his peace has unlocked the next chapter of his purpose. If you're still reading this part, I want you to comment, "He is protected," to let the enemy know that light is still winning. Your comment not only strengthens the message, it helps this truth reach someone else who needs it. Just say it. He is protected. My child, listen closely again, because the deeper we go, the clearer the truth becomes. What happened that night wasn't simply a strange experience or a moment of fear. It was the collision of two realms, the darkness born from someone's jealousy and the light that has always surrounded your son. When that woman stepped out of the seer's house, she believed she was leaving danger behind. But she had carried something with her, not a curse, not a demon, but the echo of her own intentions bouncing back at her. The universe does not receive darkness without responding, and heaven does not watch harm aimed at a chosen child without rising. That night, the woman felt it first in the air, heavy, thick, uncomfortable. She tried to pretend it was her imagination, but every room she stepped into felt colder than the last. Every shadow seemed to move when she wasn't looking. She kept turning around, expecting to see someone standing behind her, but the only thing that met her eyes was emptiness. And yet not empty at all. Something invisible walked through her home that night, not to torment her, but to teach her the lesson she refused to learn. You cannot curse what God has already crowned. The whispers she thought she heard weren't voices from the dark. They were warnings from the light. They were reminders of the line she crossed, the line heaven does not allow anyone to step over without consequence. She thought she could destroy your son with a picture, a name spoken with hate, and a curse wrapped in jealousy. But instead, she unleashed the very power she feared most. Meanwhile, the seer couldn't rest. Her mind replayed the moment the photo touched her table, the flames turning blue, the mirror splitting like a warning from another dimension, the presence she felt standing behind her, the presence that made her freeze. She had read thousands of faces, held thousands of photos, guided thousands of souls, but never had she encountered a force so overwhelming. She kept seeing the same vision, your son standing in the center of a circle of golden fire, his name glowing with symbols she couldn't decode. There were angels around him, their wings stretched wide, their eyes focused, guarding him as if he carried something sacred. She whispered into the darkness, "He is chosen," and even her own voice trembled with the weight of it. But the woman, the one who carried hatred in her heart, refused to believe any of it. She convinced herself that the cracked mirror was just an accident, that the blue flames were just tricks of the air, that the missing reflection was just a trick of her eyes. But lies cannot cover truth for long, because every time she tried to sleep that night, she felt something watching her. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw your son's face, not frightened, not weak, but glowing, calm, untouchable, protected. She woke up gasping, her heart racing, because she finally realized that she hadn't walked into a seer's room. She had walked into judgment, and while she drowned in fear, heaven began to move for your son. You may not have noticed it at first, but after that night, shifts began happening around him. The atmosphere around him grew stronger, like invisible armor. He started surviving things others would crumble under. Accidents avoided, wrong people removed, opportunities appearing out of nowhere, people drawn to him for reasons they couldn't explain. This wasn't coincidence, it was alignment. It was destiny reorganizing itself around him after being awakened. Your son may have felt strange dreams, heavy feelings, sudden chills, a pressure in the air around him. You may have worried, but what he felt wasn't fear, it was activation, The moment that woman tried to curse him, the heavens moved to protect him, and the spiritual world rearranged itself to match the new level of favor assigned to him. The jealous woman thought she had walked into a place of power, but she walked into the presence of something greater than any power she understood. Her reflection disappearing wasn't the beginning, it was the warning. The blue flames weren't danger, they were justice. The trembling walls weren't fear, they were alignment. The energy she awakened didn't come to her because she was strong, it came because she was wrong. And as your son's protection grew stronger, her peace grew weaker. The same energy she intended for him circled back to her, not because heaven seeks revenge, but because heaven balances. What you send returns. What you wish for others becomes the lesson you must learn. But while she trembled, your son grew brighter. While she lost sleep, he gained strength. While her life fell apart, the pieces of his life began to rise into place. This is how the universe works for the chosen. And if this message is reaching you, it is because heaven is still speaking, still reminding, still revealing. Destiny doesn't arrive quietly. It announces itself through the collapse of the things that tried to stop it. If you want this blessing to continue reaching those who need it, comment "Light surrounds him" below. Your words carry energy, and your comment helps push this message forward into the hearts of others. My child, prepare your heart, because what I'm about to tell you enters the deepest layer of this revelation. What happened after that night was not random, not coincidence, not imagination. It was the unfolding of a spiritual reality that had been waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. The woman who tried to harm your son did not understand the magnitude of what she awakened. She thought destiny was something she could bend with envy. She believed protection was something she could break with malice. But she forgot that some children walk with a shield that was forged long before they were born. As the days passed, the woman's life began to shift in ways she couldn't explain. Objects in her home started moving slightly out of place. The corners of her mirrors fogged without reason. Her phone would glitch whenever she tried to speak about your son. Lights flickered every time she whispered his name. People around her began to feel uneasy, as if the energy she carried had shifted into something heavy, something unsettling. She kept telling herself it was nothing, that it would pass, that the seer was exaggerating. But deep down, she knew. She had crossed a line not meant for human hands. Meanwhile, something else was happening to your son, quietly, silently, powerfully. He began to sense things before they happened, like a subtle whisper inside his spirit, guiding him away from harm. He would pause before entering a room without knowing why, only to later realize he had avoided something dangerous. His dreams began to change, no longer random images, but messages, warnings, visions that carried weight. Sometimes he woke up with a sense of peace so strong it filled the entire house. Other times he woke up with a strange awareness, as if unseen eyes were watching over him, not with threat, but with protection. You may have looked at him sometimes and sensed that something was different. Maybe it was the calmness in his voice, maybe the stillness in his eyes, maybe the way he carried himself with a quiet strength that didn't exist before. That wasn't just growth, that was awakening. The same spiritual force that blocked the curse began to activate his gift. The same light that cracked the mirror began to open his intuition. He wasn't becoming someone new. He was becoming who he was always meant to be. The woman, in her desperation, tried to visit other seers, other spiritual readers, hoping to reverse what she had set in motion. But every door she walked through carried the same reaction: candles flickering, air thickening, shadows shifting, mirrors trembling. The seers looked at her with fear, not because they saw power in her, but because they saw the consequence of daring to touch a destiny not meant to be touched. Some refused to help her. Others told her the same message in different words: You brought this upon yourself. Leave that child alone. You cannot undo what heaven has sealed. Her jealousy had become a mirror she didn't want to look into. Her intentions became chains she couldn't break. The darkness she tried to send out had nowhere to go but back to its sender. And every time her life decayed a little more, every time her peace slipped further away, every time her plans crumbled, she saw your son rising, thriving, glowing, untouched, protected. And that's when the real shift occurred. Your son started attracting favor without trying. People who once overlooked him suddenly noticed him. Teachers, mentors, strangers, even those who had never spoken to him, began offering help, guidance, opportunities. It was as if the universe itself had turned toward him in admiration. Doors that had been stubbornly shut began opening with ease. His name started entering conversations in places you didn't expect. Someone would mention him randomly. Someone else would praise him unexpectedly. His light grew louder than any shadow cast against him. The seer, the one who first felt the presence behind the woman, disappeared from her usual places. She stopped taking clients. She stopped offering readings. She withdrew because the image of your son's light had shaken her to the core. But one night, she received a dream so vivid it felt more real than waking life. She saw a golden path stretching across a dark valley, and your son walking down that path with thousands of unseen beings carrying torches behind him. Their faces were hidden, but their presence was powerful. They whispered his name with reverence, not fear, and above them, a voice echoed like thunder softened by grace. This one will restore what was lost. The next morning, the seer wrote a letter, not to the woman, but to you. She didn't sign it because she knew her name no longer mattered. Inside, one sentence: "The hand of God is upon your son. Guard him, but do not fear. Heaven guards him first." And that sentence was the truth shaking the spiritual world. Your son was not the victim of a curse. He was the catalyst of a prophecy. The attack wasn't meant to destroy him. It was meant to wake him. The woman wasn't an enemy. She was a trigger. Her jealousy pushed him into his next spiritual level. And now, as you read this, heaven is still moving. Protection is still active. Favor is still unfolding. The story isn't finished. It's rising. If you are still here, comment his destiny is rising to speak protection into the atmosphere and help this message reach one more soul who needs it. And as you read these words now, something inside you knows, deep in your spirit, that this message is not just content. It is not just another video you stumbled on. It is a lifeline, a confirmation, a warning wrapped in protection, a reminder that heaven has not abandoned your son, even if the world has misunderstood him, even if life has wounded him, even if darkness has tried to cling to him. And as this shift happens, heaven is leaning closer than ever before, not to judge your son, but to intercept what was meant to break him. There is a movement in the unseen that feels like a tightening, a pulling, a rearranging of every step he is about to take. It is not meant to scare you. It is meant to show you that heaven is working far earlier than the danger expected. There are moments, rare moments, when God steps into time before time can step into a child's fate. This is one of those moments. Something heavy has been following your son, something that formed around the decisions he made when he felt misunderstood, when he felt unheard, when he felt alone. Those decisions opened doors, and heaven is closing them now with force, authority, and urgency. Even now, the angels assigned to him are repositioning. One moves to his left, another to his right, and a taller one stands behind him with a shield that glows like fire. This is your confirmation he is not walking alone tonight. He is being escorted, redirected, protected from what could have ended far worse than you realize. The danger that was meant to touch him is being dismantled piece by piece. Someone, somewhere, spoke something against him. Words filled with bitterness, jealousy, resentment, or misunderstanding. And words, whether we like it or not, carry spiritual weight. They tried to attach themselves to his future, trying to bend his path toward trouble, pain, or irreversible mistakes. But God says, not this time, not this child, not under your watch. This is why your spirit feels a heaviness, yet a strange peace at the same time. You're not imagining it. That is the clash between heaven's intervention and the enemy's last attempt. It is the sound of something being broken off from your son's life that had been attached to him for longer than you realized. And right now, yes, in this very moment, his name is being spoken in the courts of heaven with authority. Angels are being dispatched in real time. His timeline is being rewritten while you sit here reading. Heaven is shifting the weight from his shoulders and placing it into God's hands where it belonged all along. This is why you ended up here today. Not for entertainment, not for curiosity, but because heaven is using you as a spiritual witness and spiritual agreement. Your presence here gives heaven permission to act more aggressively on his behalf. When a parent receives a divine warning, heaven gains legal ground to intervene. You reading this is not passive, it is activation. Breathe for a moment. Feel the atmosphere around you. Something is lighter than it was a few minutes ago. Something has already started loosening around your son, something that held him mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or situationally. You didn't see it break, but you will see the after effects in the days to come. His mind will become clearer. His steps will become more cautious. His choices will begin shifting without him fully understanding why. That is heaven's hand guiding him away from the place where danger was waiting to catch him. And listen carefully, not everyone around him has pure intentions. God is revealing that one person's influence over your son is being cut off. Someone who brought confusion, temptation, hesitation, or misdirection is about to lose access to him. Not because your son will fight them, he won't have to, but because heaven is pulling your son out of their reach. Some connections were never meant to be permanent. Some voices were never meant to guide him. Some friendships were never meant to last. And the breaking you will see is not loss, it is protection. You may even see sudden arguments, sudden distance, sudden coldness, or sudden shifts in communication between him and certain people. Do not panic, do not question it. That is heaven removing him from circles that were dragging him into situations beyond his awareness. This is the part where God's intervention gets intense, because the deeper the danger was, the deeper the protection must go. That is why you have been feeling restless about your son lately, why you've been sensing something you couldn't put into words. Your spirit knew before your mind understood. And now God is confirming it. Your son is not falling. He is being rescued. Heaven is not punishing him. Heaven is protecting him from a punishment he didn't see coming. And the miracle unfolding around him is not loud. It is quiet, precise, and divinely strategic. Right now, all heaven needs is one thing from you: agreement. If you are reading this and you feel this message pulling at your spirit, say yes in the comments. Those who comment are planting a spiritual agreement for their son's protection, and heaven responds to agreement more than fear. This message is not random. Your son's life is being redirected. Heaven has intervened, and nothing that was meant to break him will reach him.